What's going on? We are going to be talking about objections tonight, both answering some of the ones you deal with, um, and some of the ones I deal with. So we're going to give it a couple of minutes for people to get in. Hope you guys are having a great end of November. Been a crazy couple of days, as I'm sure you've seen if you've been any or at all involved in my content for any period of time. You've probably seen um, something about the champion circle, which we're going to talk a little bit about tonight, but not a ton. Um, but just it's the biggest, most comprehensive marketing campaign I've ever ran, with the help and assistance and guidance of John Hiley of the Marketing Savage. He's done a great job helping me kind of get that created. But I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of details with the champion circle just quite yet. But I was having a conversation with one of my clients today who developed an application that I think is honestly going to revolutionize his industry. And we were talking about different go-to-market strategies and some different ways that he could go about, making it happen, making it successful, going about that process of how to like get the best traction the fastest. And, we're talking about the objections and like how to go about overcoming them and getting people to do it. Cause there's really only a couple. And specifically, I'm going to talk tonight about B2B sales. So this won't be as much B2C, more in the B2B realm. But when selling B2B, time, money, and technology are typically the three biggest things. I don't have the time to do it, to implement it, to change. I don't have the money to do it, implement, or change. And my guys don't like using technology, or they don't want to adapt to technology. Those are typically the biggest objections that people get. And so if you are selling B2B, if B2C can work as well. If you're going to market with something, or you're adding a new service or adding a new product or trying to raise prices or whatever it might be, creating content and specifically creating a video that describes the common objection and then actually overcome them in that video can be super powerful, because it helps people get a gist. Like, this is not some 30-minute video. It could be 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, whatever. But overcoming objections can be a big part of it, a big part of gaining that trust factor, gaining that understanding, and ultimately gaining the client the revenue. So if you're dealing with objections right now, put them in the comments, wherever that might be for you. This is streaming on like 6 different platforms right now. So wherever that might be for you, post in the comments if you have an objection that you would like me to talk through or overcome with you. Please comment below. Let me try to help you with it. But when it comes to understanding your client base, most people start with, what is the product going to do? What is it going to help with? What is it going to do here? But I think, look, I sold B2B for a big part of my corporate career. And where I had probably the most success in sales was in my B2B life. And understanding the objections that you are going to run into is 9 times out of 10 the difference between closing that deal and not closing that deal. Obviously right now, B2B, I'm pushing the champion circle, right? So time, money, 2 of the biggest things, right? I don't have the time to come to the events. I don't have the time to dedicate to the coaching. I don't have the money right now to afford the investment, but ultimately, if you look at time, I understand my clients' objections is time. What most business owners don't understand is having a coach helps them save so much time in making better decisions, making quicker decisions, not making the wrong decisions, spending a bunch of time fixing it, right? So, Mike, how can I make enough time to get on the calls and come to the events every quarter? It will absolutely 100% save people time, right? Being a part of the champion circle and being coached by me helps people save time. From a money perspective, one of the best calculations you can do if you're dealing with any type of B2B customer and you're trying to sell a product or service, understanding what an average client value is for your client is huge, right? So for me, the investment for the champion circle is $2,500 a month. So if I ask somebody like, hey man, I just can't afford it. And I say, well, what's an average client value to you? And they're like, well, our average client's about $8,000. I'll be like, okay, so do you believe being coached by me and being a part of this group will help you achieve at least 2 new customers a month for the year? Do you think? And obviously I'm overcoming the objection, right? So utilizing that terminology and video format, which I'm doing right now with you, but helping people understand the objections that you bring. or helping you understand the objections that your client brings allows you to guide the conversation, guide the sales process, guide the consumer to the desired outcome. So in this case, with this client I was talking about today with this application, he's going to market in January. There's no real team behind him quite yet. I mean, he has some assets and some resources, but like it's going to market. And I was like, let's do a demo video. And at the end of that demo video, let's come up with the top 3 or 4 objections that people are going to deal with and say, hey, you're probably thinking you know the time to implement this. Let me show you how easy it can be. Hey, you probably don't think you have the money to afford it. Let me show you how the ROI can work out for you. Hey, you probably don't think your guys are going to want to use the technology. Let me show you how we got our guys utilizing it. That quick 3 to 4 minute overcoming the objections is what will drive somebody to say, oh, okay, it's not as hard as I thought, or okay, it's not as expensive as I thought, or okay, the value is worth it. So for you, no matter what you're dealing with, again, this is primarily B2B, but if you can go into things like I used to go in when I was selling, let's say B2C, let's talk B2C for a second. I was selling remodel work and roofing and siding and then dealing with that stuff. I would go in ahead of time, like, hey, here's some things you're probably concerned about. You're probably concerned I'm not going to do what I say I'm going to do. You're probably concerned that you're going to overspend or overinvest in the project. You're probably concerned it's going to take too long. Let me review some of the things about what makes us a little bit different from those challenges before we get into anything else. Because I want to make sure you feel comfortable doing business with us or with me before we get into like the easy stuff, right? The easy stuff is making your dream come true. The easy stuff is getting this project off the ground. The easy stuff is making you excited about what we can do for you. The hard stuff that I want to cover first is, some of the challenges or objections or fears you might have about this project. Here are a few that are pretty common based on all the other customers I've worked with, but what are some of the biggest fears or concerns you've had? All right, get to the bottom of that, right? Because that fear, that concern, that doubt is going to be the difference between them choosing to do business with you or not, right? So in my world, people are prepaying, right? I'm a business coach. People prepay for the value, right? In some of your worlds, people pay deposits before they get any type of something like here's 25 or 50 or 75%. We'll see you in 6 months. Hopefully this project turns out good. But, who knows? So they're prepaying for a lot of the value. So coming in and helping them understand why they can trust you, what makes you different, what makes your process different, what makes your situation different. But I mean, if you're watching right now and you have an objection that you're just like having trouble getting over or helping overcome, put in the comments. Let me see if I can help you. But for me, the biggest things with the champion circle is time and money, right? So the time thing for me I think is kind of ridiculous to be honest. And if you're watching and you're one of those people, I'm sorry, but I think it's ridiculous. It's 2 calls, it's basically 3 calls a month and 1 in-person event a quarter. And I promise you the amount of work that I give you between calls is very manageable, but helps you overcome so much wasted time and making mistakes and doing the wrong shit. So if you're on the fence because of time, I promise you helping get guidance to make faster, better decisions saves you time and mistakes. From a money perspective, I always do the same thing. What's an average client value to you? Do you think I can get you enough clients to overcome the $2,500 a month investment? It's the champion circle investment. So, ultimately, what are you doing to help proactively and approaching the objections of your clients? If you don't know what the average objection is, or you don't know what the typical objection is, you're going to struggle because they're dealing with it, whether they're talking about it or not. So for me, whether it's, so for me, from that perspective, it's either what are the biggest fears you're dealing with? What are your biggest concerns about doing business with me? I did the same thing when I was in B2C, selling remodel work or selling roofing and siding. Hey, what's your biggest concern about this project? Or what's your biggest concern about working with me? Or what's your biggest concern about hiring a contractor? Here's some things that people are typically concerned about. Boom, boom, boom. Here's what we do to make sure that we overcome or don't deal with, our clients don't deal with those challenges because we understand them and we've created systems and processes around solving those things. So I highly suggest for you, if you're not actively approaching the common objections of your customer, I'd highly suggest making an adjustment on that because look, I've been selling in the construction world for almost 10 years. I was in corporate America for almost 10 years before that. Understanding the fears and concerns and objections of your clients has 100% helped me close more business than anything my product or service did for them. So think about that. adjust your approach, figure out what works for you. If I can help at all, throw in the comments, and I'll try to get to it later. But for tonight, if you're on the fence, if you're concerned about what to do about getting more customers, I highly suggest focusing on the objections that they are dealing with. As always, I appreciate you guys, the Claude Squad. If you don't know who you are, you know who you are. But I appreciate you guys. It's been a long couple days being sick, and then obviously with the Champion Circle push. I'll be honest, I'm tired. I'm wore out, but I'm focused and dedicated to the mission because there's a lot of people out there that need help, and I really want to be the one to bring that value. So we have about 24 hours left to register for the entire 2022 Champion Circle. We got 26 members right now. We have 4 spots open. So whether we get to 30 or we get to midnight tomorrow, whatever comes first, we're closed down. So if you've been on the fence, I'd love to talk to you about it. If we've already had a conversation, I highly suggest you make a decision because I don't want you to miss out because, the results that we got this year's group, and the group's going to be literally 3 times as big next year. The amount of value that's going to be brought on every single call and every single meetup is going to be incredible. So I'll see you guys probably sometime tomorrow. Appreciate it. Make it a great night.